Here's a guy that you're going to be able to see in a lot of great stuff. I'm talking Star Trek Discovery. You just saw him in that. You're going to be able to see him on Upload, which season 2 streaming on Amazon Prime Video. He's got a big role there. And some other stuff I'm going to talk to him about as well is Hiro Kanagawa. Hiro, how you doing?
Hi, how are you? I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Doing very, very well. Now, I want to start off by talking about Star Trek Discovery Hero because you've been a part of many different shows, many different franchises over the course of your amazing career. How excited were you to get a chance to be a part of something as iconic as Star Trek?
It was a thrill. I think, I think this is probably the really biggest franchise that I have been a part of. And for someone my age, of course, I grew up when I was a kid, it was a three-channel universe. You'd come home from school and there'd be Gilligan's Island and maybe like the Merv Griffin show or something like that, and then Star Trek. So someone my age obviously has seen the original episodes numerous times. I grew up with that, obviously, so it was a huge thrill, especially because the role that I have now, I think I had previously auditioned maybe 2 or 3 times for Discovery, and once I think they were pretty close to casting me, but the schedule just didn't work out. So it was a great thing that it finally worked out for me.
So given that, do you kind of feel like those other 2 times where it didn't really work out for whatever reason, do you feel like this role of Dr. Hirai, do you think this is the role you're like, okay, I'm glad those things didn't really work out so well because I really like this guy?
I really do like Dr. Hirai. Yeah, I do. I mean, I guess we can talk about he's been in a couple of episodes that have aired now, and people who've been watching, I think, can appreciate that he's a little bit socially awkward. But his heart isn't. I think ultimately his heart is in the right place, and he most definitely wants to contribute to the mission. And he's going to need some encouragement though to get over his bedside manner. As they say about doctors.
It's funny that you mentioned that because we see in this last episode, he kind of has a little bit of a run-in with the president. I thought that was a really, really great scene talking about that bedside manner. Do you think it's kind of more of like, does he just have no filter, or is it actually kind of one of those things where maybe there's some denial there, or just maybe even a little bit of fear as well as to what might be going on?
That's part of it. For me personally, the way that I approached it as an actor is, given that the universe of Star Trek Discovery is a matriarchal universe, I kind of came at it from the point of view of there's something about that grates on him, perhaps, and so that was kind of my in to his abrasive manner, personally, which is easy for me because I come from a very patriarchal culture, right? Japan is a very patriarchal culture, so that was kind of how I got into it. Now, whether or not that really translates to centuries in the future or not, but as actors, we kind of have to make it personal for us.
So, what do you think the respect level is there for somebody like a Captain Burnham and things like that? Because you see the little, I would call them jabs. I don't know how that maybe that's not the right word to describe it, but you see sort of like where he says, hey, don't screw these things up when they're about to go on this huge mission. Do you think that on some level he does respect that, or at least respect the chain of command, or is he thinking they're going to screw this up? I could definitely do this better.
Oh, I think he definitely does respect the chain of command, yeah. And I think in the episode that just aired, I think that when President Rilak gives him a talking to, that ultimately that does land with him. I think so.
Yeah, you definitely saw the mood change there a little bit. That's definitely true, and that'll be really interesting to see going forward as well. Obviously, you join a show like this. You look at this amazing cast. This is now the 4th season of the show, and they've built up so much great character work in those 3 seasons prior to that. What was it like getting to jump in and work with this incredible ensemble cast? Because there's a lot of good ones.
Again, I can't say enough about the show and the people involved. There are a lot of sets that you go on that aren't particularly personable. It's hard to build relationships and have friendly conversations with your colleagues on some sets, but that was absolutely not the case. And I just want to say, fans of the show will, be happy to learn that everyone on this show is just such a tremendous, warm, friendly human being, and that really starts from the top, right, from the lead players. So my time on the show was tremendous. It was certainly a career highlight for me, and I can't say enough about everyone.
So talk about this mission a little bit before we move on to some of your other projects. I mean, you cross the galactic barrier, you're going for first contact, you've got to find out what's going on with the DMA. How scary is the future of this show going to be, of course, without spoiling anything?
Yeah, I can't really give away anything that hasn't happened yet. But I think the thing that really captures the imagination is the fact that we have gone beyond the galactic barrier, and I think the tendency in the Star Trek franchise is for aliens to be beings that are kind of anthropomorphic and that we can relate to and communicate with in a way that we understand, right? And I think it's been pointed out, and it's absolutely true, that this time the alien life form may be something we don't have any means of understanding what they're about, and then in the first episode, in fact, the first scene in which I appear, we discuss that, in some detail, the fact that none of our translators are going to work. We don't know how we're even going to be able to communicate with these beings. So I know, it was mentioned to me that we had quite a bit of expertise. We had a lot of consultation with people who, are involved in this field of what would we do, how would we communicate with aliens if we ever encountered them. So I think fans are in for a real treat.
That's really, really cool to know. I can't wait to see how that's going to play out in the future. We're talking to Hiro Kanagawa, who, of course, was part of Star Trek Discovery, which you can now stream on Paramount Plus. But let's switch gears a little bit, Hiro, to something else that you're a part of as well, and that's season 2 of Upload on Prime Video, which is an amazing show. There's no shortage of shady dealings going on at Lakeview, and we know that Detective Sato is going to be a big part of a big investigation that's going on there. How difficult, Hiro, is this investigation going to be?
Well, it's the tone of the show is anything that happens gets screwed up ultimately, right? So,
no doubt.
So definitely, it's not an easy investigation by any means for my character, with I think hopefully darkly comedic results.
How cool is it though to kind of switch gears and be a part of a show like this? Because I mean, it's science fiction, but there's more of a comedic tilt to it. You don't get that very often in a lot of shows. So is it kind of like a breath of fresh air to be able to work on a show like this, even playing a detective like you do?
Yeah, absolutely. And in Vancouver, where I'm based, we actually don't get a lot of comedies here. Most of the stuff that's shot here is dramatic. And the science fiction that's shot here, very little. Although now we have Resident Alien now, so maybe that's changing. But yeah, Upload. I mean, when I saw the first season, I was just so charmed by the tone of it, right? And especially, the relationship, the main love relationship is just so. It's just so charming and endearing that it was great opportunity for me to get into that kind of thing. I mean, I have done comedy in the past. A lot of people to this day, still mention the one scene I had in Best in Show with Parker Posey. That seems to, have for decades now. I mean, people in Mexico, people in Havana, Cuba have recognized me from that one scene.
Wow.
So on the few occasions when I've done comedy, it's worked out for me. So I hope that's the case with Upload as well.
Oh, there's some good moments on there. I've already seen this season. There's some good moments in there too that I think people are really, really going to love.
Great.
Hiro, I don't know if a lot of people know this about you, but as I was preparing things here, you were actually the voice of Reed Richards,
Yes.
Mr. Fantastic, and the Fantastic Four: World's Greatest Heroes from 2006 to 2010. So this is obviously a franchise that, now that it's part of the Marvel Studios and MCU, that they're thinking about, redoing, and eventually we're going to have another Fantastic Four. So how did you get into the character of Reed Richards, and what do you think is the most important aspect of that character?
Thinking back, I remember when I auditioned for it, I remember the breakdown said, think young George Clooney slash Topher Grace.
Wow, that's an interesting combination.
So, yeah. So so that led me to understand that what they envisioned for it was, I mean, that animated series, all the characters were kind of younger and hipper, right? So, going with the spirit of that, it led me to kind of think, well, even though he's this brilliant scientific mind, right? There has to be a kind of humanity, a warmth, and a charm to him, and so that's kind of how I approached that particular role. And I was probably one of the few people in the cast who just basically got to use my regular speaking voice. I didn't have to put much of a spin on it.
So would it be cool for you to now, since you've played the character in animation, would it be cool for you to in some way be a part of this live action version of the Fantastic Four in whatever role it might be? Would it be cool to be able to go back and revisit that and do that in live action in some way?
Oh, absolutely. I think any actor would welcome that kind of opportunity. Not to mention revisiting, right? Revisiting a role after, a 10 or 15 year hiatus. I think that's also a huge thrill. I mean, in that context, a couple of years ago, I did Orphan First Kill, which is the prequel to Orphan, and hopefully that's coming out soon as well. But there's an example of Isabel Fuhrman, who played Esther in the original as a child, and now she's getting to revisit that same role, right? However many years later, 13, 15 years later. So. And I had, a little bit of a conversation with her during the shooting, and yeah, for actors, that's just it's like a gift to be able to do that kind of thing.
So you never know, is what he's saying. We're gonna have to keep our eyes out for that. Hiro, there's something that you're going to be a part of that I'm really, really excited about, and that's Shogun, which is going to be coming to FX here not too long from now. What can you tell us, as much as you can, of course, about your role in the show and just about the show in general? How amazing is this going to be?
It's going to be epic. I don't have a large role. I play a general who is actually not in the book at all. They kind of, made a general up for me, which I totally appreciate. And it's not a large role, but what I can tell you is that the attention to detail and authenticity is just beyond imagination. And a lot of that, I think, is the lead, Hiroyuki Sanada, who is also a producer. And, he's brought in so many experts from Kyoto, costuming, dialect, weapons, you name it. they have spared no expense in getting the authenticity correct. So I think people are just going to be blown away by the production values and, obviously the tremendous cast that's been assembled, but it's going to look spectacular and feel spectacular.
Hiro, before I let you go, I want to go back to Star Trek for just a second because there's alternate timelines that we work with now on these series. There's so many different spin-off shows that are going on as well. What do you think your future in Star Trek might be? Even if it's not on Discovery, could you see yourself maybe ending up on one of these other shows in some way?
Man, I'm all for, crossovers. I'm all for that, so I'm open to anything like that happening. Maybe I could come back as an alien too. Who knows?
Oh, you never dull. Look at that. He just throws that right out there, and that sounds
different
like
character.
that sounds like an amazing.
I'm
idea to
open
me.
for all of that stuff. Yeah.
That sounds like a great idea. But if you go to this guy's IMDb page, you're going to be blown away at all the stuff that he's already been in and stuff that he's got coming out too. Let's just start with Star Trek Discovery, which is now streaming on Paramount Plus. You can also watch him in season 2 of Upload on Prime Video, and I mean, can't wait for Shogun as well. There's so many great things, and that's, I'm sure, not going to be the end of it as well for Hiro Kanagawa. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to reach your audience. It's been a pleasure.